life. His life as a researcher, his life as a teacher, his life as a judge, or ITO, as you explained to me last time.
ITO is a more general term.
Okay.
It includes everything. It's just like an umbrella, under which you put, everything.
Okay. So you see, we are going to learn because, as you know, I learned as well last lesson with new terminology. Now, Sergio, when last lesson you were explaining a few terms, you explained terms like ITO, NTO, and you tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
is
that's
that right?
Correct. Yes, that's
and
correct.
Terminology in your sport and in general. I mean, when I watch television, sometimes I see a lot of terms on the screen, and I say, well, what does that stand for?
Yeah, the reason why you have a lot of information in English on the screen is because most of the TV companies, TV channels that broadcast the Olympics or other international sports, show all the letters, all the information, all the messages in English, because that is a language that is most widely spoken, in the countries in which these transmissions are watched. And you see a lot of English words, a lot of sometimes acronyms. You know what that is? What is an acronym? In Spanish, we call that siglas. Okay, we do have a lot of acronyms in sports. Not only sports, in many, many other fields of knowledge, we do have a lot of acronyms. But in English, and regarding sports, we do have, when you see like events in athletics or in swimming or many other sports, you have some acronyms at the bottom of the screen that sometimes you say, what do they mean? I mean, what is the meaning of, like, say, PB or SB or WR or OR? And I'm going to explain to you what they mean so that when you watch the Olympics in Rio, you'll be able to understand what these acronyms stand for. Okay, if you allow me to do that,
please.
I'll go to the board.
That will be interesting.
Yes.
Yes, Sergio. I think that will be important. They are all the time, and you don't know what that means.
Yes. For example, let's think about athletics, which is, I would say, the most popular sport at the Olympics. And you have international stars like Usain Bolt from Jamaica, who is the fastest man ever, and he has a number of world records and a number of Olympic records in the 100-meter dash or 200 meters, also in the relay. He is a superstar. And then you're watching, like, the image of Usain Bolt getting ready to run, and then underneath, his face, you would see like this, PB. And you say, what does that mean? PB. That means personal best. Okay? This is his personal best what? His personal best time. Okay? Now, then you would see also like this, SB. And you would say, maybe, now that you know that PB means personal best, that maybe this B down here means also best. And that is correct. Yes. We're talking about the best time, but not the best personal time, but we're talking about the best time in the season, which means the year. So in 2016, for example, maybe Usain Bolt's time, best time, let's suppose it is 9.75 in the 100-meter dash, maybe, I don't know, I don't have the information, but this may be the fastest time this year, but it is not his fastest time in his life, which may be 9.58. So his PB is 9.58, his SB is 9.75. So that is what actually happens. So you will see PB 9.58, SB 9.75. It may be the case that for some athletes, the PB and the SB may be the same, because the PB, was achieved this year. So for that reason, the PB will be the same as the SB. In some cases, like with Usain Bolt, You would have the WR and the OR. WR means what? World record. And the OR is maybe, well, not maybe, it is the Olympic record. So PB, SB, WR, OR, and sometimes you also have GR. If you're talking about the Pan American Games, like the ones we had in Toronto last year, in 2015, the GR is the games record, okay? Not the Olympic record because, I mean, it's not important to talk about the Olympic record at the Pan American Games because you're not going to be able to break the Olympic record at the Pan American Games. But you're going to be able to break the Pan American Games record at the Pan American Games. So then you would have like games record. So these acronyms are very important for you to be able to understand what kind of information is being provided on the screen when you're watching an event. And this is not only for athletics, in which you have like personal best time, but you may also have the personal best distance, like when you're in the javelin throw event, or in the discus throw event, or in the shot put event. So in these cases, you're talking about distance, not about time. Okay? So athletics and swimming as well. Swimming, natación, maybe I'm sure you know this. So athletics, swimming, and cycling, why not? So these are some of the sports in which you usually have information like PB, SB, WR, OR, GR, and several others. I can't remember now. Okay? I just wanted to help you a little bit, to understand what information is being provided on television, on the screen, when you're watching important events like the Olympic Games. Okay? Good.
That's interesting. So in the case of Usain Bolt, I'm sure his name is all over the place, right?
Everywhere, yes. He's very famous. And if you go, you watch television everywhere, and now that we're coming close to the Olympics, the Olympics are fast approaching, then you're going to have a lot of, input coming from everywhere about the superstars. And for sure, in athletics, the superstar is Usain Bolt. This, I think, are going to be his third Olympic Games. He won gold medals in Beijing, again in London, and now he will be, the one to watch at the Olympics in Rio, for sure. He will be.
All right, excellent. We've been talking a lot about your life as a professional, as an ITO. What about going to other facilities? What kind of sports do you watch when it is not archery?
Good. That's a good, an interesting question. Sometimes the possibility to go and watch other sports depends not only on what you want to see, but on the time you have to go see other sports, but more important, on the availability of cards to have access to the other facilities. Like when you are an ITO and you have your international accreditation at the Olympics, this accreditation allows you to go only to your sport. So I'm only allowed to go to the archery venue. I cannot go watch other sports only with my accreditation. So the international federations have some other accreditation cards, which they call upgrade card. Upgrade, like in Spanish, ascenso. So that when you get this card on top of yours, then you have two cards. This allows you to, this card allows you to go and watch other sports. And I've been very lucky to have witnessed the successful participation of Cuban athletes in other sports at the Olympics and at the Pan American Games. I remember in Barcelona, I went to see the high jump event when Javier Sotomayor won the gold medal at the Olympics, and I was at the stadium. The same with Ana Fidelia Quirot running at the Olympics in Barcelona and again in Atlanta. So I was there because I asked for the upgrade card, and I was able to go see these sports. And I have also witnessed, I mean, I've been able to go see volleyball with the Cuban team some years ago, the Olympics in Sydney, and I have also I've also been to swimming competitions at the Paralympic Games. Very interesting, by the way. So yes, this is one of the, as you said in our previous lesson, this is one of the privileges you get when you are international technical official at the Olympic Games.
I'm sure you don't go alone to these places. Who are you accompanied by?
Oh, normally I go with other Cuban, let's say, ITOs who are at the Olympics. Some other times I go with other ITOs who are in my, from my sport, but they are not Cuban, like friends from other countries. Like we say, let's go to, I don't know, athletics tomorrow night, and then we ask for the upgrade cards, and then we go together. That's sometimes we have done that, yes.
So what happens when the other person cheers for one team and then you cheer for the Cuban team? Has it ever happened?
Well, yeah, it has happened for sure, and we have two cheering teams like that, but it's part of the game.
All right.
I mean, I was also able to go to boxing at the Pan Am Games in Indianapolis '87. The Pan American Games in Indianapolis in 1987. My competition was over, so I had to stay there for a couple of extra days, and so I got upgrade cards and I went to see boxing. I went to see the men's volleyball team playing versus Brazil. You know,
wow.
Brazil,
yes.
Baseball, I mean, sorry, volleyball, that was great. And I also went to see a baseball game between Cuba and the United States at the Pan Am Games in Santo Domingo 2003. So whenever I have the chance, I go see other sports. I love sports in general. I mean, that's one of the things that I enjoy watching on television the most, yes.
You know, Sergio, I see a lot of things going on in these competitions. I see television, and I'm sure like people have to work very hard on organization.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That's I think that when a city, because it's not a national Olympic committee that applies or that bids to organize the Olympic Games or the Pan American Games, is the city, the government of the city. When they decide to bid for the organization of events like the Olympics, they need to understand that this is very, very expensive in the first place, and also that you need to have an organization that would allow you to take care of everything. It is not only having a wonderful venue for the athletes to compete. You have to think about the Olympic Village and all the facilities you need to have at the Olympic Village. Like at the Olympics, you also have the Paralympics. A month later, you need to have access facilities like people in wheelchairs, how they're going to come to this area, how they're going to go here and there. So it's very complicated. Also, transportation is a big issue because you have a lot of sports, a lot of sports events going on at the same time, and you need to take care of transportation. I have a story about what happened with transportation at the Olympics in Atlanta in 1996 because they were using school buses. You know, the yellow school buses you sometimes watch when you're watching a film?
Yes, I have.
And these buses were being driven by people who were not from Atlanta. So they brought people, volunteers from other cities in the United States to come to Atlanta to drive the buses that would drive people around, the city and go to different sports events. And there was a case in which a team, some competitors were late to their competition because the drivers didn't know their way around town. And there was a British rowing team, rowing. They were candidates to the gold medal, and they were not able to compete because they were late to the competition. And for that reason, they couldn't win a medal. So this I'm telling you is because, it's just to give you more information as to how important it is to plan transportation properly. You need to be able to figure out some possible contingencies that may cause a problem so that maybe a team may be late. You don't want to do that. You don't want to have that situation at the Olympics, because then you're going to have a big issue, like appeals and things, coming from teams because, the transportation system did not work.
You've been to a lot of these places. For you, I know it is a hard question. If you had to choose what country has ever organized the tournament better,
okay,
what has been the best place?
Are you asking about the Olympic Games?
Yeah, the Olympic Games, the Pan American Games.
The best Olympic Games were in Beijing, 2008, for me. That's my opinion.
Why?
I would say that Beijing was the first. Number 2, probably Barcelona. And number 3, probably London. London or maybe Sydney, perhaps. Beijing was great because the Chinese people are just like that. I mean, the Chinese people are very, very organized, and they're very hardworking. So the Chinese people were never tired. I mean, they were all the time willing to help and to be nice to people, and to, there was always a smile coming from the Chinese people. They didn't make any mistakes regarding transportation. The uniforms that they provided us with, they were ready when we arrived. The food was not probably the best thing, because if you're used to international food and then you're giving a lot of Chinese food, then you sometimes don't like that. But for the rest, it was wonderful. I mean, I enjoyed Beijing so much. The opening in Beijing was the best ever. Great. It was an artistic, let's say, show that I'm sure needed to have hundreds of people as part of the organization of the opening in Beijing, because it was incredibly good. Wonderful, yes.
Now that you're talking about uniforms, I mean, how does that work? I know the brands are involved and everybody wants to have their names on it.
The IOC, the Olympic chart, which is the document upon which they build every single document regarding the Olympics, and the rules of the International Olympic Committee are very strict about advertisement. That is, things like showing names of manufacturers or showing names of sponsors on your clothing, on the equipment, on everything. They're very strict about that. And that is a big difference between the Olympic Games and other international tournaments, which are not like Olympics or Pan Am Games or things like that, in which you see a lot of announcements, a lot of advertisement everywhere, like Coca-Cola here or Toyota here. No, that's not what you would see at the Olympics. And that is a problem sometimes for the competitors, because they cannot wear the uniform that they've worn at other tournaments. They cannot wear the same uniform at the Olympics because of the restrictions. Like, for example, there's a very, let's say, well-known brand called Adidas, and many countries, many teams coming to the Olympics are sponsored by Adidas because they provide their uniforms. But Adidas has like Adidas here, and it has 3 stripes here. So at the Olympics, you cannot have Adidas here and the 3 stripes here. You need to cover either this one or this one. So I saw several teams at the Olympics in my sport in London that needed to have the 3 stripes covered with tape, so that they would not be visible to the television. And that is because the rules of the IOC are quite strict about this. So yeah, that's an issue about uniforms.
That's a lot. Is it the same with your uniform, or
no?
What happens?
The ITOs get uniforms provided by the organizing committee, by the LOC, the Local Organizing Committee. And the LOC provides uniforms to all of the international officials, and it is the same uniform for all the sports. That's what we wear when we go to the opening ceremonies. Like, you identify people as ITOs because they wear the color of uniform of the ITOs. Now, some sports have their own uniform for their ITOs, like boxing, for instance, or, I don't know, hockey, the color, or basketball, which is gray. So these ITOs, like referees and all that, sometimes they wear the uniform provided by their international federations, which is not the same as the uniform provided by the local organizing committee. So, but they need to comply with the rules regarding advertisement. So we don't care if you're wearing your uniform from your international federation, but you can't have all the different, signs advertising a certain brand or anything.
There is a lot of things going on, Sergio. Well, I mean, we've had the possibility to ask Sergio lots of different questions, right, in regards to his life as an ITO. And last lesson, we also had the opportunity to ask Sergio all the things related to being a translator at the beginning, then becoming a teacher. And I'm very sure that we would like to, the TV viewers, Sergio and I, would like to get information about your life as a teacher, how long you have been a teacher, and then, we would like to get more information later.
Well, as I said in our previous lesson, I began to work as a teacher in 1985. And at the beginning, it was quite difficult because I didn't have the tools, the strategies, the pedagogical tools to do my job, to the best of my capacity, because I didn't take subjects at the university that would allow me to do so. So I needed to learn by myself. I needed to study more. I needed to, as I said, to transcribe every word when I was going to teach a dialogue and all that. So I've been teaching for more than 30 years now. Yeah.
And what subjects have you taught?
I've taught English, what we call it at the university, where I taught like integrated English practice, which is a subject I taught in all the years of the course, like first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. And I taught translation for a while when we had a translation course at the university, and I've also taught like foreign language teaching methodology, not in the graduate course, but master's programs and other courses that we have put together at the university. Yes, well, that's it.
You have learned a lot of things. You have taught different courses with several colleagues. What ingredients do you think a teacher should have?
Oh my God,
many of them, yeah.
That's a very, very interesting question, because first of all, you need to love what you do. I mean, if you're a teacher, you need to love teaching. You need to love your preparation for your lesson, like enjoying, like, oh, tomorrow I have a lesson to teach, and I want to do this and that and the other, but I don't want to just go and do the same as I did last week. I want to do something different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, sit down tonight, and I'm going to take a couple of hours to prepare the best lesson ever. I want to impress my students. I want my students to feel happy. I want my students to enjoy what they're doing. I want my students not to know what's going to happen next. I want to surprise them. And that's one thing that I think when you are a teacher, you need to be able to do, like to be creative. I mean, students get bored very easily. Like, oh my God, there he is again. Same thing as yesterday. I know what's coming next. Every lesson he follows the same steps. In every lesson, he says the same words at the beginning. In every lesson, he does the same. That's not good. Maybe it is good for other subjects, but not for language learning. Because if you want your language lesson to be enjoyable, you need to use all of these, tricks, let's put it that way, that would allow your students to feel motivated to what's going on. Oh my God, there he is. Oh, teacher, this is fun. So doing that, I think you are guaranteeing that the motivation component of learning is taken care of. I mean, if a student is motivated, he's going to learn better. He's going to learn faster. If he's not motivated because the text is boring, the topic that you have in your reading text today is not relevant to the students' lives or anything, then they're going to just, I don't know, to dislike it, let's put it that way, to hate it. Why not?
Yes.
And they're going to hate the teacher, they're going to hate everybody, and they're not going to be paying attention, and they're going to fall asleep. That's too bad.
Yeah, it's like, I say the teacher and I say like the orchestra, the creative person.
Sure.
But there are also a number of fundaments. For example, a little bit of psychology, a little bit of pedagogy, a little bit of linguistics.
Well, that's correct, yes. I mean, that is a reason why when a curriculum is put together, like, for example, some of us, the teachers who have been here the Universidad para Todos for many years, we've been entrusted the task of putting together like the curriculum for the preparation of teachers around the country for many years. And we need to take into account different components, and as you said, the pedagogical, like say, factor, is a very wide one that includes psychology, curriculum design, and many other things that a teacher should be able to have as background knowledge upon which to build the rest of the process. And yes, that's a part that has to do with psychology and pedagogy. But also, it is very important to have like the basics regarding how a language is taught and how a language is learned. I would say the other way. First of all, how a language is learned, and then once you know how a language is learned, you have to design then your process to be able to teach the language in such a way that it fits the way the language is learned.
Well, could you say that again? Because maybe our TV viewers...
I don't think I'll be able to do it that way again.
That was excellent. Okay. We have to write it down.
Yeah, the thing is that everything depends on how your students are going to learn the language.
Yes.
I mean, you cannot think that the students need to adapt to the way you teach. You need to adapt your teaching to the way your students learn. I think that's what I meant, a few minutes ago. So when you have a lesson to plan, when you have like a curriculum to design, you have to first of all think, is a language learned the same way as history is learned? Is a language learned the same way as biology is learned? Of course not. And then you cannot plan your lessons just the same way you would plan a lesson if you're teaching geography or history or physics or mathematics, because these subjects also have their own, let's say, methodology. So again, you need to think about your students as the target. So, and if you consider the target, you need to regulate or to adjust your sight. Let's put it the way I would say it in my sport. Like my students are my target, then the bow and the sight are my tools as a teacher. So if my target is very far, I need to adjust my sight so that I'm able to hit the target with my arrow. If I do not adjust my sight to hit the target, which are my students, and I leave the ways it has been for other students, then my arrow is not going to hit that target. It is going to hit maybe the grass. So it's a way to compare, to establish a relationship between my sport, archery, and the teaching learning process of a foreign language.
That's very interesting, Sergio. One of the things I find, Sergio, is that in the past, and maybe now, I'm not very sure, there are some teachers who like to talk all the time, and now that you're talking about who's teaching and who's learning, what's the role of a student? What's the role of a teacher?
It is very difficult for people who know English very well, like maybe native speakers of English, to teach the language if they do not have the methodological tools, the skills to teach. Some people say, he knows a lot of English, but I don't learn with him. What's wrong? What is the problem? And the reason is that when you teach a language, you need to, again, think about your students. And your students are the ones who have to speak more in the lesson. So it is for them. My lesson is for my students to participate. My lesson is for my students to speak, to talk, with each other, or as a group. My lesson is for my students to write, or to maybe listen and react. Of course, I have a job to do during the lesson. I'm there to maybe facilitate their learning. Like, I understand that a certain student is having a problem, or that he's not understanding well, so I go and I explain and I help and I teach them, my students in general, how to learn. That is very difficult, and you get that only when you've been around for a while. When you've been around as a teacher, I mean, 10 years is not enough experience, I would say. You need more time.
I think the word stages, right? It's like
Yeah.
having a baby in your arms, then later help the baby how to walk, then later the baby's crawling, and then he stands up, and finally he does that by himself.
That is true, because every process, and learning a language is a process, every process is, I don't know, includes a number of stages. Like, we do this first, then we do this next, and then we do something else later. And that is, I think, very good when we're able to single out the different stages for teachers in preparation to organize the process. I mean, if you don't have like you know, steps, like first we do this, and then we're going to do a different thing. So if the teacher is equipped with this information, having to do with the different stages of the process, he's going to be able, she's going to be able to organize, you know, the teaching of the foreign language in a better way. Yes, we have different stages, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't, when I started many years ago, in 1985, we had people who were class observers, I mean, lesson observers, who were very experienced teachers who would come to our lessons and watch, and they would write down all the mistakes you made, not only in language, but mistakes having to do with, you know, the methodology of language teaching, and they would give us a mark, like 3, 4, 5. And I remember that when I started, some of my colleagues said, you can organize your lesson in many different ways, but what you cannot do is expect your students to produce if they have not understood first. And that is wonderful. I mean, once you understand that, I mean, it's just like you can't expect a child, you know, to be able to run before he's able to walk. Yeah. And that is what happens when you learn a language. I mean, you cannot expect, you know, your students to be able to do things which are more complex if they have not been able to maybe overcome other obstacles first.
I think the idea of studying all the languages, I know you gave it a try with French.
Yeah.
And then it's related to what you were saying. You said that person was asking you to do things and you were not ready to do that. And you felt as a result like frustrated?
Yeah, I was very disappointed in myself, first of all.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, when I was 40, I decided one day I want to learn another foreign language. And I started to learn French. But the motivation was not internal. It was because there were other friends of mine who said, yeah, we're going to learn French. Why not? Let's go. Let's study French. But I was not really very sure I wanted to do that. Not because I didn't like French, but because I thought that at my age, at 40, with so many things to do, you know, like I taught a number of hours at the university, English lessons at the university, and I had so many other things. I was already, I think, teaching at Universidad para Todos here. So I went to my French lessons for about a month, and the teacher talked to me in French, and I said, what is she saying? I don't understand a word. I felt so stupid. And I said, since I'm not motivated, and I don't have the time to do this properly, I mean, to dedicate my time to, you know, to devote my time to studying French, and then I decided to quit. So, you know, the teaching of this is that when you decide to learn a language, you need to be focused. You need to be motivated. You need to be excited about what you're doing. If you're not, you better not start.
And there should be like the scaffolding, right? As many specialists call it. Como un andamiaje, ¿no? Lo que se refiere a Sergio. And the word is scaffolding, right?
Yep.
That's important. Now, Sergio, I'm sure people would like to hear some stories about your experience here in Universidad para Todos.
Oh, yes.
At the beginning, you know, things were broadcast live.
Yeah. Maybe you remember that we started in the year 2000. And we were 3 or 4 teachers at the beginning. And we started, I think it was in October or November 2000. This was the second course ever taught at Universidad para Todos. And at that time, lessons were not pre-recorded. I mean, we needed to teach live on TV. And that was quite difficult because In the first place, we were teaching a foreign language. That is a language that was not our first language. And of course, we were concerned about what would happen if we made a mistake. If I come here and for some reason I made a mistake, maybe in pronunciation, or I made a mistake in spelling on the board, or I make a mistake in grammar, and I can't stop that, and I have to go on. We were very concerned about the image we would portray, or we would show to the people watching the lessons, that the teachers are not good. So that was a big concern we had, and we needed to fight that. We needed to struggle against that at the beginning. Also, the fact that there were certain technical things having to do with television and showing videos and all that we were not used to. We thought that would be probably a problem. And it happened many times, like in my first lesson, for example, I wanted to show a video. And when I said, now we're going to see a video, and in this video we're going to see a lady who is talking with her husband and so on, and then I said, let's watch the video. And all of a sudden, the video that came was not a lady talking with her husband. It was a young man. It was a young man who was talking with his children. And I didn't know what to say, because then the camera came back to me, and I had to say something. And of course, the video and the questions were not, they didn't match. So we needed to learn to create strategies, all of us, all of the teachers who were there at the beginning, to be ready to sort out these difficulties that were logical, because we didn't have the experience. And sometimes the television people, they were all very nice. They've been very nice all the time to us, but they didn't have the experience of interacting with people who were not used to the environment, to the television thing, and that was difficult at the beginning. I remember that we needed to come here to Canal Educativo many times in the evenings before we ever recorded a lesson, or we ever taught a lesson. We didn't record them. We ever taught a lesson, to prepare all the materials, everything. We didn't have PowerPoint at that time. At the beginning, it was not PowerPoint that we used for that. We had to come and prepare. I can't remember now what the system was. And we were here for hours and hours and hours until midnight.
You had like papers, and then the camera came closer?
Papers, yes. And I can't remember now the system we used. Maybe some other day, maybe Sora or Miriam, who were at the beginning here, can talk about that. But it was quite difficult.
Yes.
Yes, at the beginning it was, but it was a great experience. I mean, I have to say that all of this that we went through added to our preparation.
Yes.
I mean, it all resulted in us becoming better teachers, I would say, all of us. All of the teachers who've been here for so many years. And I want to say that some of these people are no longer with us. I mean, they've passed away, and we miss them a lot. But it has been the effort of many people to be able to keep the English lessons on television for so many years.
Yes, Sergio, I totally agree. I mean, I was there. I remember I was a student in the second course.
Yes, you were one of our students in the second course. You were very slim.
My name was not Raydel, it was Brian.
I'm talking about being slim.
Really?
Yes. When I started in 2000, I weighed about 100 pounds less than I weigh now. So, maybe because we've grown old, and then the fact that we're now older, has caused us to gain a couple of pounds. But and I understand that now they're showing, or they were showing very recently, some of our lessons in the first courses, and I've seen some of those lessons that I say, oh my God, look at me 15 years ago, and look at me now, two different people. But I know that has happened to almost every one of us.
Yes, I have to say that I feel very proud of being your student first. Your students, and of course the rest of the colleagues, Loli, Sora, Miriam, Sonia,
Marta.
Alain, Leon, Marta, Newville, and a lot of teachers. I have to say that not only did I have them in the studio, I had them also in the Pedagogical Institute. That was, excuse me, that was for me a great experience. right? Because it was live, because sometimes, I mean, we didn't know what to say, and it was on the spot. Now, any funny stories that happened? Maybe somebody who fell or something, because, you know, it was live.
Yes, I mean, I remember that we had lessons in which we were teaching vocabulary at the very beginning. I mean, the first course, as you remember, was very basic. Like the intention was to provide our students, our learners from their houses, with basic knowledge of English. And we structured the courses on the basis of communicative functions, not on grammar, and that's good. We structured the courses on the basis of communicative functions, like greeting people, and then we said, hi, how are you, and all that. And then there were many lessons, and then there was one unit in which we taught everyday activities, everyday, you know, things that people do, you know, quite often. And we had one of our teachers, I'm not going to say who, and one of our teachers who was teaching a lesson about what housewives do at home. She was teaching the verb sacudir, which is dust, you know, and I was working with her, you know, the same lesson, and she said, well, the verb I'm going to teach is the verb dust and whatever, and I said, but Professor, I'm afraid that your students at home do not know the meaning of dust. And she said, yes, of course, dust. And she started like, you know, like showing, you know, with her hands, like, you know, what dusting meant. And she went all around, you know, the set and all that. But the problem was that the camera was not, you know, following her. So people at home were not looking at her as what she was doing. And I said, but you need to, I mean, can you explain? And she said, no, I'm going to show. But the camera, since the camera people were not understanding, so she was showing around, but nobody was watching. And then I had to say, but say it in Spanish, because otherwise they're not going to be able to understand. And yeah, there were cases in which one of our teachers fell down, but you know, that's part of the game. But I have to say that we enjoyed it a lot. I mean, we enjoyed teaching. The first courses, though they were live, which was more difficult, but at the same time, since it was live, we had to do it right from the first time. We had no possibility of saying, stop now, I'm going to say this again. It was not possible, because at the same time we were here teaching, our students were watching us. So there was not a single second for us to you know, to revert what had happened. We had to go ahead, and we had to maybe clean up along the way. That was the only way we had to do it. Yes.
Yes. No, it was a challenge, not only because the students were watching, also colleagues from all over the country, right? And you want to give a good image, right? Because you were like models, and people were following you too.
You know, Raydel, I think that all of us have to be very proud of what we have done. Maybe the results for some people have not been the best, but I have to say that we have done our best. That all of the teachers who were in the first courses, and now the ones who are now teaching course number 5, we have taken this very seriously, because we respect our students a lot. And one of the things that I think when you do this job we're doing, like teaching on television, we need to keep in mind is that we have to sometimes think that those who are there watching the lesson are not understanding. So that means that we have to use strategies, like to say the same thing again using other words, like going back, because that is typical of spoken language, of oral communication. Like when you read, it's not a problem because you can go back if you didn't understand. Like, oh, I didn't understand the word. You can go to a dictionary, and because, you know, the message is there. You can go back to it. But when you are speaking, there's no way you can go back. You cannot go and play it back as you would do with a tape recorder. So we teachers have to bear in mind that the information we provide has to be transmitted using maybe different ways, different channels that would allow our students to understand. Maybe they didn't understand the first way we said it, but then there's a second time in which we say it in a different way. Of course, you don't do that with every piece of information. You do that with the most important information you want your students to be able to get and to understand. So yeah.
That's important. So that is an important element. I think I'm following you, Sergio, when you say that strategies is important and communicating. Communication is a very hard process. So strategies, are there any other elements that you consider as important in communication?
Well, yeah, communication is a very broad term. I wouldn't dare talk about communication because I'm not an expert, I would say. But I do know that in the exchange of information, in the exchange of greetings, of everything between people in a foreign language, you need to be aware that communication or exchange does not take place only with language. That there's a lot more than that. And I'm sure Isora and Garbe, who are the people who've been talking about the culture and about sociology and the relationship between language and society and all that, they have explained here how important it is to consider this nonverbal communication or exchange with people. Like, we Cubans or Latin people in general are very friendly. And then when you want to, say hi to somebody, oh, hi, how are you? We do that. No, we don't do it in English. There are certain rules you need to abide by, rules that you need to comply with in communication, in exchanging with people, and they have to do with culture. So I remember I went to China many years ago, and I have a friend who's Chinese, and when I saw her, I didn't know whether to shake hands, whether to bow, whether to kiss her, because I was not aware of of how she would react to any of the three ways that I knew, to greet someone. So that's quite difficult.
So what did you do in the end?
I can't remember. I think I actually did nothing because I wasn't sure that she was going to like my shaking her hand or that she was going to like my kissing, her cheek or whatever. And so I was very hesitant.
Yes.
And it happens with some of the Oriental cultures like Koreans or Japanese or Chinese, who have different, let's say, customs, the same as may happen with Arabic people. We Latins are more flexible, and also distance between, the two people talking to each other. For us, being close to the other person is not a problem. But when you're talking to somebody whose first language is English, that is not nice. They're going to feel like if you're too close, you're becoming aggressive. And you need to be careful about that. I remember many years ago, there was a teacher, Professor Conchita Padron, who was also part of our group here at the beginning.
Yes, Conchita and Hilda. Yeah.
Conchita, yeah, but Conchita wrote her PhD thesis about this, about gestures, and how using a bad gesture, or the wrong gesture, I would say, would cause a problem in communication. Like, I don't know, when you do this in Cuba, it means come here.
That happened to me.
It comes here. Come here. And then when you do this in the U.S., it means, hello, how are you? So it's different. So we need to learn that. So sometimes we teachers forget that. Or sometimes we don't forget it, but we don't know. Mm-hmm. Because it is rather difficult to know this from a textbook or from, other sources. The best way to be able to know this and to teach this is if you have experienced being with people, whose customs are like this. And when I was a student many years ago and I taught English and I studied English, at that time there were courses for people who wanted to become French teachers, Russian teachers, Arabic teachers, and many different languages. And the ones who studied Russian were very lucky because they had the possibility to go to, at that time, the Soviet Union and live there for 1 year. So they studied, in Moscow or in different places for 1 year, and they learned not only, the language, but they learned about the culture of these countries. And I have a friend who was in the Soviet Union many years ago. He was not learning Russian, but he studied there. I think it was accounting or economics or something. And he was there for about 4 years. And I went to his place about 3 nights ago, and he said, I have prepared some Russian food, and I have Russian-style potatoes, and I have a Russian salad, and I have a Russian sauce or whatever. And when I tasted that, it was delicious. And he said, I learned this when I was in Russia, when I was in the Soviet Union many years ago. And this is part of the Russian culture that I was able to apprehend when I was there. And I said, oh my God, this is part of what we call the not the cultural aspect having to do with communication, which is really wonderful. Sometimes we talk about this in our lessons at the university, and our students say, oh, this is too abstract. I mean, oh, this has nothing to do. I just want to be able to use words and grammar and all that. I don't care about culture, and that's a big issue. Like when we're teaching sayings, like we don't say we don't use the same. I mean, when you translate a saying from one language into the other, you're not translating words. You need to understand first of all the idea.
For example, cuando la rana críe pelos, ¿no? ¿Cómo sería eso en inglés?
Yeah. When hens what?
Yeah. No, I think was it related to, because we're trying to work on that. I think it was related to pigs. When pigs fly, was that the expression?
Oh yeah. Or when hens have teeth.
All right.
Yeah, that's
you
another
see?
one. Yeah.
So you have to look for new terminology.
That's correct.
And
yes.
we as teachers too, Sergio. Right now we were just thinking, like looking for information here in our brains, because it's part of communication, going back where the message was one day. And well, Sergio, timing too. Timing is important in communication. You go to a lot of places, and you have to be there. I mean, you as Cuban, we have a bad reputation because we arrive at places. Is that your case?
No. I'm a bad Cuban regarding that because I'm always punctual.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's good. Sergio, one last question to conclude this lesson today. How do you find time to do research, to do archery, to teach everything in your life?
At this moment, I have not been teaching for a while, but there were times, many years, in which I had to combine, the two things. And I was very lucky to have colleagues at the university where I worked who allowed me to, some extra time to be able to go to tournaments around the world and then return and teach and all that. It was difficult, and sometimes when you have too many things to do, like it was my case some time ago, you need to do things, in the evenings, at night, and you need to find time, to do the things that you like. And I've had two passions, like maybe hobbies or passions in my life, and archery and language teaching. Why not? I love teaching, and I'm so happy that I was invited to come here today and in our previous lessons because that has allowed me to use my English, why not, for a while, and also to share ideas with people like you and some of our colleagues here. I would say that our students who are learning to be teachers of English at the university should be able to understand that teaching implies a lot. That teaching a language has to do with effort, has to do with self-preparation, has to do with, with love and passion.
That is a good message, Sergio, because we have new challenges today. Students at university who have to get like a B1, and your message has been important.
Yeah.
So Is that your last matches? Your last matches? Do you say goodbye? Do I say it? What do you think? I think
this is your show, so you go ahead with it. I mean, I hope to be able to be back again and to say a few things to you again. But I'm glad that I was here. I have to say that again.
All right. So, my friends, this is all for today. I hope you have enjoyed this lesson with Professor Sergio, and luckily he'll be back at some point and then teach another lesson. Thank you very much for being here with us, and see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Nominados al Premio Nacional del Humor 2016.
Considero humorista a partir del triunfo de la revolución, en que comienzo a colaborar con publicaciones como el periódico El Mundo, Prensa Latina, el INDE, etc., hasta la Fundación de Palante, donde terminé siendo su director por más de 15 años. Por lo tanto, soy humorista gráfico y esta nominación al Premio del Humor para mí es una cosa maravillosa.
Primer encuentro internacional danzonero Miguel Faíl de In Memoriam. Del 30 de marzo al 3 de abril en Matanzas. Primer encuentro internacional danzonero Miguel Faíl de In Memoriam.
La fumigación permite eliminar el mosquito adulto Aedes aegypti. Cada fumigación debe cubrir todos los locales de casas y centros laborales. Las fumigaciones serán programadas con antelación, incluyendo las de las casas cerradas. Se precisa la colaboración de todos. En zonas de alta infestación, toda casa cerrada se considera que tiene mosquitos adultos. La fumigación de insecticida diluido en agua o petróleo no es perjudicial para la salud siempre que no se entre al local fumigado antes de 45 minutos. Recibir al fumigador y cooperar con su trabajo contribuye a que la comunidad en general y las viviendas en particular estén más protegidas contra el Aedes aegypti. Apoyar a personas que requieran ayuda en el momento de la fumigación, si éstas lo solicitan, garantiza que todo el entorno sea fumigado. Al mosquito no lo dejes volar.
Estreno en Cuba del musical Víctor Victoria. Un espectáculo de Raúl de la Rosa. Del 29 de marzo al 1 de mayo. Sábados y domingos en horarios habituales. Teatro América. 75 años.
llegar, hacer, permanecer, partir, retornar, son formas de un mismo sentir. El amor por una porción de tierra, que es mucho más que eso, a partir de la actividad creadora del hombre. Bienvenido. Es un placer recibirlo una vez más en este tiempo televisivo que descubre puentes de amor y creación para que alguien venga a saldar significativas deudas.
Tengo una deuda de sueños contigo, mi ciudad de tiempos. Tengo una deuda de amores prohibidos, mi ciudad de sueños. Vuelas como lanza condenada a perder su punta.
El proyecto Pensando en Nosotros, en la Casa de Artistas y Creadores y el Taller de Cerámica nos abrieron las puertas en esta oportunidad. Y es que voy a estar conversando con un artista inclasificable, natural de Banes. Si usted quiere seguirlo conociendo, continúe con nosotros.
Conversaremos con un hombre que nació el 14 de diciembre de 1950 en Banes, Holguín. A los 10 años integró el taller infantil de artes plásticas y se incorporó al centro vocacional de esta manifestación. En el año 1967 matricula como instructor voluntario de artes plásticas y se gradúa en la especialidad de instructor de artes plásticas en Ciudad de La Habana y restauración de piezas de cerámica aborigen en los museos Bani, Banes, Holguín y Montané, Universidad de La Habana, y además de historia del arte. Sus obras se encuentran en manos de coleccionistas tanto en Cuba como en el extranjero. Ostenta varios reconocimientos, entre ellos Vanguardia Nacional del Sindicato de Trabajadores de la Cultura en diferentes años. Medalla Raúl Gómez García por 25 años en el sector de la cultura. Artista destacado en el trabajo cultural y reconocimiento del Ministerio de Cultura por sus años de trabajo. En los próximos 27 minutos saldaremos significativas deudas con Raydel Feria Isidoro.
Efectivamente, en esta oportunidad me dispongo a saldar significativas deudas con el artista de la plástica Raydel Feria, a quien me place muchísimo recibir en nuestro espacio, de verdad que sí. Otro oriental de esa ciudad preciosa que es Holguín, de donde hay que hablar de varios lugares, porque varios dejaron huellas que no han podido borrarse con el paso del tiempo, y hay obras incluso allí que perduran de Raydel y inmensa gente que lo quiere, ¿verdad que sí? Hay que hablar de Banes, por supuesto, de Nicaro, de Mayarí, Levisa. ¿Qué me puede decir de los recuerdos que perduran?
No sé por dónde empezar, pero bueno, empezaría por Banes.
Claro.
Me vienen a la mente importantísimos recuerdos de la infancia. Ese honor de haber nacido en un lugar donde hoy son asentamientos aborígenes. Ahí, en uno de esos espacios, en un pueblo muy pequeñito, muy humilde, en el Fusil, nací yo. Te digo que sin, digamos, mencionar la importancia que pueda tener posterior o inferior para mis estudios, pero eso me marcó. Me dejó una profunda huella, que es la que hoy trato de saldar, trabajando y disfrutando la acción de crear la cerámica.
Y la niñez de un ser humano que es tan importante, como bien nos comenta, quizá todas esas vasijas, es decir, de alguna manera, hasta inconsciente o involuntariamente, se fueron fijando en el imaginario y en la obra y en lo que sería después, y todos esos pretextos que quedaron.
Es que eso tiene que ver mucho con esos orígenes, porque
claro,
el trabajo de la cerámica es un trabajo de modelar y de cultivar la tierra, esa herencia que le llamo, por eso siempre me llamo un poco hijo de la tierra. Esos puntos y esos nexos son los que me unen en estos momentos para hacer el trabajo que realizo en la cerámica.
Eso mismo. Bueno, y uno es no únicamente de la tierra donde nace, ¿no?, sino de la tierra que te acoge en varios momentos de la vida. Y por eso decíamos que Holguín como que se multiplica para Raydel Feria y que hay que hablar de otros lugares, de estancia y de raíces profundas.
Sí, muy niño, como a los 9 años, mis padres se mudan para Nicaro, que es como mi segunda patria, mi segundo espacio, porque podíamos hablar de segundos, terceros y cuartos, ¿no? Porque en algún momento también tenemos que hablar de La Habana. Pero mis padres se mudan para Nicaro, y en un pequeño pueblo que se llama Levisa, que está a la entrada de Nicaro, ahí trabajaban en la cosecha de la caña de azúcar. Y ahí se da una cosa muy curiosa, es que cuando el triunfo de la revolución, pues se crean ya las casas de cultura, el movimiento que empiezan a hacer los instructores de arte, y de allí salgo becado para estudiar instructores de arte. Y es cuando vengo a La Habana y empiezo ya la preparación para lo que es y ha sido siempre mi vocación más favorita, la del trabajo de instructores de arte.
Bueno, ya que lo menciona, cuando llegó a La Habana con esa intención para estudiar como instructor de arte, ya esa vocación había nacido hace mucho tiempo. ¿Por qué las artes plásticas? ¿Por qué la cerámica?
Bueno, la cerámica surge por el trabajo desde niño en contacto con las piezas aborígenes. Yo recuerdo que yo escarbaba, encontraba barro, lo modelaba y empezaba a hacer aquellas primeras figuras. Pero en ese entorno tan lindo que es el campo, sobre todo en la zona donde yo nací, el río, el clásico río, las palmas, la vegetación, todo eso me fue dando una visión, creo yo, para después hacer lo que estoy haciendo en este caso en la cerámica, que es integrar los colores, la utilización de los verdes, los amarillos, el esplendor y el deseo de plasmar la presencia del agua, el gusto por la ecología, la presencia de determinados temas como elementos, ¿por qué no?, también de análisis y de cuestionamiento, de decir, ok, hay que respetar la naturaleza, hay que cuidar el agua, tenemos que luchar por cuidar nuestro entorno. Es decir, todas mis obras van a tener ese tipo de matiz. Y eso lo aprendí en esa etapa de la infancia y en el trabajo que pude visualizar con relación a mi entorno. Una familia maravillosa, un padre, una madre, hermanos, muchos amigos. Recuerdo esa etapa como algo muy lindo y sea como un privilegio que me ha acompañado toda una vida, haber nacido en ese lugar.
Claro que sí, eso ayuda muchísimo. Y la mejor parte no es solo cuidar la naturaleza, sino la capacidad que tienen algunos, como usted, de transformarla, de crear maravillas a partir de la maravilla. Y lo otro de lo cual estaremos hablando dentro de algunos minutos, bueno, vino para acá, instructor de arte, es una labor que no ha cesado nunca en su vida y que ha complementado todo lo demás. Pero ¿cuándo y por qué se dan las circunstancias para el retorno?
Bueno, es casi como, digamos, como un pagador de promesa, ¿no? Como ese pagano que llega a un pueblo. Y es que cuando me gradué había un sorteo y te decían a dónde es que tú debías de trabajar. Y yo afortunadamente metí la mano y saco, y eran 5 letras, decía Habanes. Y entonces vuelvo en 1972 a trabajar a la Casa de Cultura, pero ya como promotor, como instructor de arte. Y ahí comienzo a establecer los talleres, los centros vacacionales, el movimiento con la brigada, esa brigada que se llama ahora Asociación Hermanos 6, o antes se llamaba Brigada Hermanos 6, los contingentes relacionados con la CTC, con el sindicato que se llamaron Brigadas Raúl Gómez García, o contingentes Raúl Gómez García. Todo estaba muy fundido y unido de una manera muy interesante, pero sin duda esos movimientos empezaron a desarrollarse en ese pueblo en la década del 70 y fui, y con mucho gusto, de verdad, uno de los iniciadores de ese movimiento. Realmente me acompañaron personas muy valiosas que me aportaron y que guardo su recuerdo como elementos potenciales para mi trabajo, pero también como complemento para lo que había que hacer en una comunidad. Y desde ese entonces creo que se sembraron ya las raíces para el trabajo que estamos haciendo aquí en Centro Habana.
Para el trabajo comunitario.
El trabajo comunitario. Y para el trabajo de atención a los instructores, porque muchas personas hablan, bueno, el trabajo de los instructores. El trabajo de los instructores tiene un antes y un después. Los primeros grupos, los que se formaron, los que surgieron y los que se fueron graduando posteriormente y los que están trabajando ahora agrupados en la brigada José Martín.
Claro. Bueno, una casualidad prolífica, sí. Entonces, afortunada. Y esas personas a las que va involucrando, como allá en Banes, aquí en La Habana ha sucedido también, es decir, se van sumando adeptos, hay testigos que se convierten en protagonistas y viceversa y que pueden dar fe de todo lo que ha hecho Raydel Feria en 45 años de vida artística, que se dice fácil, pero es mucho. Ahí cabe una obra inmensa. Y algunas personas quisieron dar sus criterios sobre eso. Mire para acá.
Yo creo que Feria es un gran artista y un gran educador. Y tiene un espíritu increíble para ayudar a los demás. y para ayudar con todo su conocimiento y todo su talento. Él está dispuesto siempre a ayudar a todo el mundo. Y la obra de feria lo dice, ¿no? Además es un gran... ama tanto la naturaleza, lo que es la vida, ¿no? Lo que es y eso lo hace que uno se sienta de verdad estimulado cuando habla nada más un ratico con Feria. Feria es especial, de verdad. Yo diría que es el gran amigo, que siempre queremos tener todo.
Raydel es un ser excepcional. Yo creo que muchos le debemos mucho a él. Mi festival le debe mucho a él. El ICAI le debe mucho a él. Es esa persona que te apoya desinteresadamente, que no te dice, bueno, y esto no, ¿qué te hace falta? ¿Qué necesitas? No, tranquila, yo lo resuelvo si tú no puedes. Ese es Raydel. Claro que el festival está en deuda con él. Creo que el festival tiene que hacerle un reconocimiento enorme, físico. Un hombre culto puede romper barreras, puede vencer las dificultades más grandes que existen. Ese es Raydel.
Es una persona extraordinariamente entusiasta, una persona con la que siempre se puede contar, un amante de impartir conocimientos. Yo creo que él es un pedagogo nato. Yo diría que es una persona imprescindible en el asesoramiento cultural del municipio, independientemente que es un amigo excelente.
Sí, bueno, esos son merecidos comentarios, pero siempre viene bien escucharlo, ¿verdad que sí? De personas que admiran lo que hacemos. Vamos a hablar entonces, Raydel, de cuándo viene para La Habana ya definitivamente y de otra labor que comienza aquí, importantísima, ¿verdad que sí? Una especialidad que mucho tiene que ver con esa vocación y que mucho coadyuvó a decodificar el arte, el hecho artístico, de otra manera.
Sí, yo siempre digo que yo no vine, a mí me mandaron, que esa es una sugerencia para dividir los dos deseos, ¿no? Yo vine y llego a La Habana porque integro la brigada Hermano Saiz y participo en su Ejecutivo Nacional y trabajo con los instructores de arte. Y entonces teníamos que tener un asentamiento, digamos, laboral, y ese primer trabajo surgió en la región Guanabacoa. Y después, un día amanecí y había cambiado el país. El país se había dividido en varias provincias y me tocó entonces ir a trabajar como metodólogo de las artes plásticas a la naciente provincia La Habana. Que esa nunca se me quede atrás porque fueron muchos años de dedicación en la preparación y formación de lo que son las instituciones culturales, pero creando las galerías, creando los movimientos, creando los colectivos plásticos, trabajando con los instructores, promoviendo también las artes plásticas. Y por qué no, también conociendo lo mejor, porque cuando llego a San Antonio de los Baños descubro todo el inmenso trabajo que hay con relación al humorismo, la obra de Eduardo Abela, el trabajo de René de la Nuez. Cuando yo voy a Bejucal veo lo que hay de las culturas populares tradicionales como las parrandas o las carrozas de Bejucal. En Güines conozco la obra de Arístides Hernández, de Domingo Ramos, y así voy conociendo de cada municipio lo mejor de su cultura y lo voy integrando en un movimiento de salones y de eventos que fue muy interesante. Todo eso me aportó y me sigue aportando para el trabajo que realizo actualmente.
No solo le aportó, todo lo que usted le aportó al país,
bueno,
a la cultura de este país y de esta región. Claro,
de allí.
Es un proceso de retroalimentación, pero lo cierto es que se empezaron a crear nexos entre el arte mismo, entre la promoción cultural que tan cerca ha estado de usted, la propia instrucción y el trabajo comunitario que se comienza a identificar. ¿Por qué ve las fortalezas, Raydel, en la comunidad?
Bueno, es que yo nunca me ha gustado hablar de un género de las artes plásticas, ni de hablar de una manifestación. Yo veo las artes, incluso hace unos días Mojica hablaba de que nuestro país ha ganado una gran batalla, y es porque, independiente de los sistemas de relación y producción, Cuba le ha aportado la educación y la cultura a nuestro pueblo. Y esa unión es importantísima para tomarla en cuenta y pensar que los hombres que viven en una comunidad necesitan desarrollar su cultura y desarrollar sus habilidades y sus cualidades en sentido general. Eso que hablamos de cultura no es abstracto. Tiene que ver también con la comida, tiene que ver con el vestir, tiene que ver con el actuar. Y la comunidad es el ejemplo, es el espejo fundamental donde uno se refleja y puede ver y aprender para el trabajo que realiza o para sus proyecciones, en este caso, de promoción y de atención a la cultura comunitaria.
Lo cierto y la mejor parte es que toda esa labor complementaria no ha disminuido para nada su intensa actividad creadora, y yo creo que es justo, ya que estamos hablando de la cerámica, de lo que hace, que el televidente también vea una muestra de esto, de los murales incluso, para que, bueno, una imagen vale más que 1000 palabras, dijo Humberto Eco. Vamos entonces a visualizar esto.